Denali National Park. Denali National Park and Preserve, located in southern Alaska near the town of Healy, is the third largest national park in the United States, covering just over 6 million acres and centered around Mount Denali, formerly known as Mount McKinley, the highest mountain peak in North America. Denali's varied landscape and wildlife attract hundreds of thousands of visitors annually, and its rich prehistoric and human history make it a popular destination for scientists. The center of the national park, Denali Mountain, is also the center of the Alaska Mountain Range, a vast ancient mountain chain that has preserved tens of millions of years of tectonic activity. The range began ascending 60 to 30 million years ago as the result of the convergence of the North American and Pacific tectonic plates. Much of the rock types brought up from the collision are sedimentary rocks from hundreds of millions of years ago, such as shale, marble, and schist. As some of the landmass of the park is originally from ocean basins, rock from Precambrian-era islands is also found around Denali. Much of Alaska's land is accreted from smaller sections of continental plates, including several terranes in the Denali area. Approximately 70 million years ago, the area experienced alternating patterns of erosion, leading to deposition of material in basins. Volcanic eruptions also shaped the region, depositing the bulk of Denali's igneous core and pushing vibrant varieties of rocks to the surface, as can be seen in the Polychrome Mountains. Several tectonically active sites remain in the area of the park, such as Kantishna Hills, with some of the most prominent seismic activity found in the southern part of the area. The southern area of the hills has the most accentuated action, forcing rivers such as the McKinley to divert around it. Because the park is located above a subduction zone, the area also features geothermal activity similar to that of Yellowstone, although not as large in size or as magnificent in spectacle. Glaciers are present throughout the park, covering over 1 million acres on land and water. As with any parks where glaciers exist, their presence and movement carves the landmass of the region, creating lakes, valleys, gorges, and moraines, as well as changing vegetation patterns. Owing to the high latitude at which the park is located, permafrost can be found in many areas of the park, although not during the entirety of the year. As the park warms, the melting permafrost can create pools of water in the landscape, known as thermokarst, resulting in the damage or collapse of some ecosystems. Among the most famous of Denali's features are the braided rivers flowing from glaciers and lakes. The rivers are clouded with sediment as a result of glacial erosion and the sedimentary rock that they flow over, and take their name from the appearance of multiple small strands separate from the main path. The braiding is caused by the gravel shifting under the flow of the water. Streams that don't flow from glaciers are clearer, flowing over primarily granite bedrock. Denali's unique climate is partially determined by its latitude and partially by the mountain range running through the park. Summer and winter in the park last for long periods of time, November through March for winter and May through September for summer, with little time in between. Temperatures average -15 degrees in the winter and +15 in the summer, although extremes have been known to cause snow in the summer and warm winters. The Alaska Range blocks much of the moisture coming from the Gulf of Alaska south of the park, leading to higher temperature fluctuations in the northern region of the park compared to the south. The north also sees significantly less precipitation as a result of the mountains. Recent warming of the climate, accentuated severely in Alaska, has reduced snowfall, accelerated the time for snow melt, and thawed permanent snowfields. Ecosystems in the park are closely connected to the climate and geography, and slight changes in either can have large effects on the specific area's ecology. Denali National Park is located in the northern boreal forest and can be divided into 7 habitats. The northern area of the park is known as the interior, primarily consisting of interior boreal lowlands in the west and subalpine and alpine habitats in the east. The southern central part of the park has similarly named habitats, although the area is usually warmer. The division between north and south, the Alaska Range, is classified as unvegetated high alpine. Boreal lowlands in the park are the most heavily vegetated, with large trees such as aspen, poplar, birch, and spruce growing among smaller shrubs and herbs such as shrub cinquefoil, Labrador tea, and blueberries. Boreal lowlands provide shelter and food for many of the park's animal species during both winter and summer. Above the altitude of 2,500 feet, forests start to fade into low-lying shrubs and grasses due to the temperature and oxygen concentration. Above 3,500 feet, at the high alpine zones, which cover nearly a third of the park, almost no vegetation exists. Wildlife in the park is abundant and varied, with 39 species of mammals and around 165 species of birds, as well as 15 species of fish and one amphibian identified. In addition to animals, the park has around 1,500 vascular and non-vascular plants, including several species of berries and over 450 species of flowering plants that give Denali its signature spring and summer colors. As with all ecosystems, plants are the primary producers in Denali. Smaller animals, such as pikas and squirrels, feed on grasses and seeds provided by plants, and larger animals, such as wolves and bears, feed on both small animals and plants. As the populations of some animals increase, those of others decrease, creating interrelated cycles. Humans have been present in the park for more than 11,000 years, following the migrating animals they hunted. Over 80 archaeological sites have been documented in the park, with the oldest site dated to 7,130 years before the present day, and sites outside of the park older than 8,000 years. Most of the older sites are small camps created by hunters, but cultural artifacts depicting art and language dated to 1.5 thousand years ago show that groups of settlers created permanent communities in the park. Tribes of Native Americans, primarily Athabascan, lived in groups of 25 to 100 people, moving with the seasons to hunt or gather food. In the spring and summer, they would often move towards rivers for salmon and gather berries and roots to store for winter. In the fall, they hunted in the mountains. The small groups of Athabascans maintained close ties, and some shared common language and cultures. All tribes shared the respect for the mountain range, and the name Denali comes from the Athabascan title for the mountain, meaning Great One. The native tribes had come into contact with European explorers long before American settlers had reached the Midwest. Russian explorers had come across the Bering Strait in search of fur trapping locations, and British explorers had also documented the area in journals. The first known British explorer to document the mountains at the heart of Alaska in 1794 was George Vancouver. An exploration of the mountains and Alaska region increased with William Seward's purchase of Alaska from Russia in 1867. Western settlement to the area came slowly due to the harsh winter conditions and lack of food. However, in 1880, a deposit of gold was found along Gastineau Channel, bringing prospectors to Juneau and further along the coast. Most prospectors were not successful in Juneau and traveled north in search of larger deposits. One party, led by Frank Densmore, may have passed through the boundaries of the park, and another party led by William Dickey published findings of the mountain, along with naming it McKinley. U.S. Geological Survey voyages also traversed and mapped the Alaskan interior as the gold rush came ever closer to Fairbanks and the Denali region. Some travelers and prospectors went as far as to attempt to climb the mountain, although all were unsuccessful. Although most parties who traveled there did so for practical purposes, primarily mining, others were concerned with protecting the area for its remarkable wilderness. Charles Sheldon was among those who wanted to preserve the park, and worked together with the Boone and Crockett Club to make it a reality. However, interest in conservation was at its lowest at the time, and the bill for creation of the park was introduced only 10 years after its conception, in 1916. President Woodrow Wilson signed the bill on February 26, 1917, officially creating Mount McKinley National Park. The park included only a portion of what it does today, but interest in Alaska was rising, and infrastructure was quickly built in the park for maintenance and tourism. Around the same time, Interest in climbing the tallest peak in North America rose, with several expeditions attempting, and coming close to, reaching the summit. The first successful expedition was in 1913, led by Walter Harper, Harry Karstens, Hudson Stuck, and Robert Tatum. Alaska became a state in 1959, by which time its population exceeded 200,000, and highways connected much of the interior. Due to rising public demand, Congress passed a bill to expand the park in 1980, making its boundaries what they are today. Thank you for watching, and as always, if you enjoyed, leave a like or a favorite, share the video with your friends, or even subscribe for more educational videos. Check out some of the other playlists on this channel, or check out the featured channels for more content.